The following is an anonymous record of an encounter with a being referred to as the Plague Doctor. This entity has several qualities of a shadow person, but few of the malevolent tendencies typically associated with shadow people. The Plague Doctor is an unnaturally tall man, appearing pitch black, wearing something similar to a trench coat or a suit. The following is a description of the encounters. It comes to me most nights between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m. I can't speak or move aside from changing the direction my eyes are looking. He stands right at the side of my bed mostly, though sometimes he hovers directly above me, and I can't always see him perfectly. He talks to me, or rather at me, usually about my activities or general thoughts throughout the day. For example, he asks me about my writing, what I want to do over the summer, how I'm going to live once I finally move out, and when I'll finally get around to going camping again. He knows I can't answer, and just prattles on for maybe 10 minutes before leaving, often giving sound advice if I need it. He even knows when I've told people about him, and has called me out on it before, but usually doesn't mind that so much. This has been going on for the past 5 years, though only in the past 6 months has it become a regular occurrence. I've also witnessed some rather strange events, and the Plague Doctor will come to me and explain more about what I've experienced. Sometimes he'll even warn me about places I should avoid because something is there, which I had no clue existed near where I live. I don't think he's evil by any means, but certainly doesn't act like a guardian. More like a passerby that just won't leave. December of 5 years ago, a friend of my mother's was moving to a new house. Her husband was away on business, and she was pregnant. She wanted me to help her unload stuff and clean the house. The neighborhood isn't the best, so she asked me to spend the night because she didn't want to risk anything happening while she was alone. I'm given an airbed on the first floor in the living room that has sliding glass doors to the backyard and no curtains to speak of. The house had been giving me the creeps all day. The pipes were clunking constantly. I couldn't sleep much there. I ended up lying awake until 1:30 a.m. That was when the house suddenly went soundless. Shortly thereafter, I heard the side door open in the kitchen 20 feet away. I froze solid in a cold sweat, and could hear shuffling heading up the stairs. It sounded like grocery bags. Whatever it was, it went up the stairs and didn't come back down. I didn't want to do anything, and couldn't sleep for what seemed like ages. The Plague Doctor showed up around his usual time. All he said to me was, "Don't move." I watch as he glides off in the direction of the room that leads to the staircase. A minute later, there's an ungodly screeching coming from upstairs, followed by a continuation of the violent clunking pipes from earlier. Needless to say, I didn't sleep at all after that. The next day, my mother's friend wakes up and tells me I look terrible, so I explain to her what happened. She doesn't believe me, but sends me upstairs with a baseball bat to check it out. The place is a total mess. 2 windows were broken. There was a hole punched in the wall. Some of the boxes were torn up as if by a dog or cat, and the toilet seat in the upstairs bathroom was snapped in half, while the back lid was gone completely. Didn't find anything or anyone, though. We finally decided to call the cops. They tell us it was probably some hobo looking for a place to crash. Later that day, the husband comes home and I go back to my place. And that night, the Plague Doctor visited me again and told me I was lucky I didn't open up the closet upstairs. I never went back to that house. 5 months later, the couple moved out, and 3 weeks later, some guy was killed there. The news made the local paper. I was pretty freaked out when I learned what had happened. According to the paper, the man was mauled to death by a bear, stating that the house had no fence and was next to the woods. That was the next time I saw the doc. He walks over to the side of my bed and says, "That was no bear." This next story is more recent, from last summer. There had been a stretch of nice weather, so I decided to go camping. Since I live near a pretty large chunk of forest in Wisconsin, it was easy for me to pack up and head out for about a mile. All went well until nightfall. I learned soon enough that I forgot my flashlight. Like an idiot, I go back to my house to get one, and easily make it back because I've been out that way a million times. So I grabbed a flashlight and a lantern, then head back outside through the back door. Standing at the edge of the woods was something I had never seen before. I couldn't tell you what it was. Certainly not an animal. Had seriously long legs, was down on all fours. It was so skinny I'd go so far as to say emaciated, long neck, and no hair anywhere. It's standing right at the start of the path I take into the woods. It was looking right at me. That thing had an impossibly large mouth. I slowly backed up to the door, never taking my eyes off it for a second. Once inside, I locked the door, shove a chair in front of it, and turn off all the lights. That night I don't even lay down to go to sleep. The plague doctor shows up anyway, so I end up paralyzed at my computer. "Don't go back," is all he says before leaving. I do eventually end up going back though, 2 days later, with a couple friends just in case. We went to my campground, and there's nothing left other than my torn up sleeping bag. And no trace of anything in the area, no footprints or markings, just the remnants of cotton from my gutted sleeping bag. That night the doc visits again and says, "You need to stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. I know you aren't trying to, but you simply must put in some effort against it." This is the end of the record of the encounters. As to what this unnamed person actually witnessed, it is impossible to say for sure. The plague doctor doesn't fit neatly into any category of paranormal entity. The vague, pitch-black appearance does lend credence to the entity being a shadow person, though oddly enough, the induced paralysis and the constant, unintrusive advice are features typically associated with an extraterrestrial encounter. If you, or anyone you know, has had an encounter with a similar entity, please share in the comments section below.